guys, Susan here. Okay, in the last episode we draped the front and the back bodice, the French draping style. Now we're going to drape the basic straight sleeve, and that's what's next. Talk about the tools you're going to need for this project. You're going to need your L square. You're going to need your 2" by 18" clear ruler. You're going to need your French curve. You're going to need sharpened pencils, fabric scissors, pins, and a red marker for correction. First step is you're going to have a torn piece of muslin about 17 inches wide by 28 inches long. After you get that torn, you're going to block it. Refer to my blocking process in the other videos, where you make sure with your L square that all the corners are in right angles and that every single thread is going nicely both lengthwise and crosswise. Okay, next step. Usually in the basic sleeve, in order to get your sloper, which is what we're going to be trying to do, making these basic pieces, they have to be transferred into the slopers. You have to have certain measurements, and mostly it's drafted, meaning it's done with numbers on a piece of paper on the flat. I'm going to show you mostly draping with some numbers done with the muslin, not paper, on the flat. But I first wanted to show you that you needed this measurement, and this first measurement is from the neckline all the way down to the finished sleeve. 1 extra inch for underneath there on the hem, and that's where I established my 28 inches long by my 17 inches wide. Let's get on the flat now. First step is to take this muslin, fold it in half, just like that, crease it, and then we're going to be pulling this grain, which is the center of the piece of muslin. So we're going to take our pin like we've done before, we're going to hold our thumb like this, and we're going to just go and pull along the thread of one grain all the way down this muslin, so we can make sure that we have the exact center of that piece. Once we do that, we're going to fill it in with pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in that groove with my sharpened pencil as much as I can in the groove. Like that. I'm going to press it, and I'll be right back. Fold that piece in half along that penciled line, just like that, as you can see. Now, I have it folded here. I don't have it pressed, I just have it folded. On the bottom, the first marking is 1 inch from the torn edge. I'm drawing a perpendicular line like this. You can use your L square to help yourself make sure that that's nice and straight, which it is. From there, I'm going to go up 17 inches. So I'm going to go 17 inches up like this. I'm going to put a little marking right like this at 17 inches. Then I'm going to use my L square again to get that perfect perpendicular line. Place the one side on the fold and the other side will be straight, and then I'm going to put that marking just like that. Okay. This is the wrist right here, and this is going to be the bicep line right here. Alrighty. From there, I'm going to take this measurement here like this. The 17 inches, I'm going to fold my tape measure in half, get exactly half of that, which is 8.5. And what I'm going to do is then so I'm going to measure up 8.5 inches from here. But I'm going to go up from the 8.5 inches from there. I'm going to go 1 more inch above that line, and that will be my elbow. I'm going to go ahead and take my L square again, and I'm going to draw a line using my L square, making sure that that's nice and perpendicular. I'm going to draw that line out with my pencil, just like that. Okay, so now we have these 3 markings. We now need the width, because we're going to drape the top part as much as we can, but the bottom part, we're going to leave it intact. I'm going to be giving you measurements associated with a size 8 dress form, which translates to a 4/6 in a garment, okay? The very bottom one, straight, is 9 inches, so I'm going to get half of 9 inches, because this is already folded in half, and get whatever that is, and that's 4.5 inches. So at 4.5 inches like that, I'm going to put a marking. That's going to be where the wrist is. Approximately 11 inches wide for the size 8. So I'm going to fold the tape measure on my 11 inch, and I'm going to get exactly half, which is 5.5. And there I'm going to put another marking, like that. Now we're going to do where the bicep measurement at 12.5, and fold that in half, and half of that would be 6.25, like that. And I'm going to put that measurement here. So these are the cross marks we're going to do. There's the bicep, there's the elbow, and this is the wrist. At that point, I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm just going to take all 3 of those markings like that, and I'm going to draw that line in, just like this, all the way down. Okay, so the cap is basically taking away the shoulder length as well as the underarm length, and that's what's remaining. The cap, which is this measurement here, you have to take from this final measurement, which we said was about 27, but it's actually more like 26.5, guys. And what you have to do is take out the shoulder length, which is here, which is about 4 and let's say 5/8. Measurement that we had here, which was 17, and you're going to get approximately 6 inches. So that's what we're going to put as a guide, but we're going to actually drape it. So we're not going to be, that's not going to be set in stone, but that is how you get that cap length. All right, let's do it on the flat now. Say it's probably going to be like more like 6.25 inches. I'm going to put 6.25 inches on here, and I'm actually going to put just a light marking with the pencil, okay? Because we have to do some kind of a guide for our the shape of the cap itself, right? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this measurement and we're going to bring that over to this measurement so that we can crease half of this measurement. So I'm going to crease my muslin like that, and I have approximately the 1/2 inch mark here, and then we're going to crease it lengthwise. I'm going to take this and fold it over this way as well. So I'm going to crease it this way as well. So I have both a crease going this way and a crease going this way. That's just to give us a light line on where we need to put our French curve. Approximately 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'm just going to take from that line and cut out my 1/2 inch seam allowance on the bottom here, like this. Since it is to a point, you have to then go out, otherwise you won't have enough fabric. At that point, I'm going to take my muslin and I'm going to cut along that seam allowance line all the way up, and then I'm going to cut across like that. It'll be very hard to drape, so I'm going to take some of this out, just kind of going straight up like this, taking some of that extra out like that. Go ahead and draw this in lightly like that and like that. Now we're going to try to establish the cap a little bit. I'm going to take my French curve and curve it around this portion like this to the intersection like that. And then I'm going to flip it over to do the underarm and go underneath like this. So we have a little bit of underneath, and then we have a little bit on top. Now that we have that, and we've cut this out here, 1/2 inch seam allowance here on this side, so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and put my 1/2 inch seam allowance just like this. Okay. And I want to see that shape a little bit, so I'm going to actually just use my tracing wheel, and I'm going to just trace around that shape so that it shows up on the other side. I can lightly see what my possible sleeve will be. Like I said, this is just a guide. We're going to drape it to make sure it's okay. And now we're going to pin these underneath arm together. So I'm going to take the muslin like this, and I'm going to take my plastic ruler, like this, and then I'm going to fold over the other side, turn back the seam allowance like this, and I'm going to pin that together in the French draping way. And since you have the plastic ruler underneath, you will not be pinning the muslin to the muslin, you'll be pinning it to the plastic ruler. So I'm just going to pin it in the French draping style, which is every 1/2 inch, pinch from one side to the other, 1/2 inch, pinch all of it, 1/2 inch, pinch all layers, and then quickly up. And I'm going to do that all the way down the underneath part of this sleeve, and I'll be right back. Just pinned underneath the arm. I've pinned the hem as well up, just like that. And we want to take a little bit of this out underneath the arm so it will be easier for us to drape. So we have this little guideline, right? I'm going to go approximately 1.5 inches above that like this, and just cut it out a little bit underneath on that side. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, just cutting out a little portion of that. Okay. And all right, so we have that now. Let's get on the dress form. I'm going to be carrying this portion of this sleeve onto the dress form, onto the actual bodice that we have here. And I'm going to start to pin where that line is, where that curved line is, and try to get it close to the curve that I have here and see if it's going to be good. The first thing I'm going to do is put a pin right at that intersection, just like that. And I'm going to stab it on the intersection of the actual bodice as well, so that I have there where that actual seam is. Then I'm going to take my pins and I'm just going to try to, on the curve, establish, I'm just kind of sew it with pins. Just going to be pinning it inside like this as well, all the way up to probably where the notch would be. So I'm just going to pin it up as much as I can here on the notch, as you can see. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the back. I'm just going to take the curve like this, and I'm just going to pin along that line as much as I can see it all the way through, pinning the two pieces together like that. All right, I'm going to go as high up as I can get away with. Much fabric to be dealing with. I'm just pinning it along the seam line itself. Then you can carry over the rest of that to the top like that and see how it's starting to take shape. All right, so we have it here, and it is pinned underneath, as you can see, right at the intersection, right? So you can see that. And we pinned underneath inside as much as we can with the curve. Now we're going to be pinning the top part of it. We've got that guideline, and remember, when the sleeve, you want it to always kind of go on the side seam exactly, but even a little bit more forward. So I'm going to take my guideline that I actually put here, and I'm going to see how close it is. I'm going to put a pin just stabbing that here where that seam line is, like that. And then this is all going to have to be absorbed. I'm going to pin that just like that. And this is all going to have to be absorbed into some ease, and this will also have to be absorbed in some ease. Some of this extra here, following the curve of that lightly drawn in cap of my sleeve. So I'm going to take that excess out. Now when I have a good amount of it taken out, let me just take a little bit more out. Okay, once I get a good amount of that out, I can then fold it inside. So I'm going to take it where that cap is, I'm going to push all that excess inside of the sleeve, and then I'm going to start playing with it and making sure that that cap is exactly how I want it to be. I'm going to pin it just muslin to muslin, so that means I'm going to pin this muslin to this muslin here like that, and then I'm going to just take the shape of that and just kind of push in all the excess and see how much I need and want in this cap. I'm going to pin them about 1/2 inch apart, And I'm going to put a little bit of pinch of ease in between each one of those pins. So I'm just going to put it here like this, push a little bit of the excess like that, and then pin it only fabric to fabric, not to the mannequin itself. I'm pushing the excess like this as well, and I'm just pinching a little bit of ease, and I'm fabric to fabric. I'm going to be pinning that all the way along that. And I'm just going to play with this until I see if it's going to be okay. You don't want too much ease because you don't want it to be a gather. So you want it to just sort of disappear in the shape. I'm just pinning that like that. So we kind of have it kind of going on here in the front. Now we're going to do the back. I'm just going to use that guideline like that, and we'll see whether it's a good guideline or not in a minute. So we're just going to push all that excess inside like that. And I'm going to pin fabric to fabric only. Here you could try to use that shape and then move it and pin it to itself underneath like that. It's kind of hard to show that with you guys. And then I'm going to just push that in as well like this. And then I'm going to put little pinches of ease and fabric to fabric only like that. Push a little bit of ease, fabric to fabric only like that. Okay, again, push a piece of ease and then just try to go on that line and try to see if this cap is going to be okay. You don't want that much of gathers on the bottom, so I'm going to take some of that out. We're going to just pinch a very tiny bit of ease here, fabric to fabric. Oops. We're going to put fabric to fabric, just like that. You can see that. Fabric to fabric. Now we're going to try to give it a little bit more ease here as we go up. Fabric to fabric. Pinch that here as well. And then just fabric to fabric. See, it's not on the mannequin itself, it's just on the fabric. Just going to play with that cap and go ahead and pinch a little bit more of an ease, and then like that, quickly up in the French draping style. Again, a little bit more like that. Pinch it again, fabric to fabric, like that. And then I'm going to do the last one like this. Now we're going to test to see if that's going to be enough. We want it to come out. We don't want it to be too flat. An arm actually has to get in there, right? So the first thing you need to see and test, is that you have enough ease here that's going to go on this cap part of your arm so that you have this enough fullness to put an arm in there. And I think it's pretty good. The pins are actually showing it like it's not as much there. And then you want to make sure that underneath here is hitting the mannequin itself, and that if anything, you don't want it to hike backwards. You always want it to hike just a little bit forward, okay? So I think we have it okay. I could use a little bit less here, so I'm just going to manipulate it till I get exactly where I want it to be. And that's where you're going to have to play with it, whether you want to raise the cap or not. But I think we have it nice and smooth around. It looks good, pretty close to the markings that we had already. And it's going nicely on the side of the garment. It's hitting the side of the dress form here well, as you can see. And we've got a nice fullness. We don't have too much gathers. We have it where it should be. And then that's where you're going to start marking it, the true markings of that cap with the red marker. Only all the way around. The last step is taking your marker and dotting all along that line on the actual sleeve itself and on the bodice as well, just to make sure that we have both markings dotted all the way around this sleeve. Okay, and you're going to go all the way up, and here you want to put a notch. You want to put one notch in the front. You want to put 2 notches in the back and then just dot all along that fold line like that, so that we have the true marking of where that cap should be. Okay. Alright guys, we did it. We draped the fitted sleeve. It's on the dress form. It's on the actual bodice itself. So we finished this lesson. Give me a comment below. Let me know if this was helpful to you. And I'll see you next month. Thank you. Bye-bye.